Of course, there are many people in denial of this fact, and so today, this is the issue that we're going to tackle. What's up everyone, it's Ross here at X Science. And in case you're new to the channel and the topic, I'm going to give you a quick Planet X 101. So, the consensus by many is that a system of planet 10 times more massive as the Earth, along with its 7 moons and debris fields, are heading towards the Earth, and as it arrives, it will wreak havoc on life on Earth. One of the most compelling signs of Planet X's arrival is the steady increase in the wobble of the Earth. For your information, Earth wobble refers to the deviation in the Earth's rotation axis. It has been changing for a great rate in many years. In order to observe this, we need to observe the sky, the horizons, as a giant clock. As commonly known, direct north corresponds to 12 o'clock, and so east, south and west are respectively 3, 6 and 9 o'clock. What I'm about to tell you next is going to sound incredible, but it's real. It's been observed by farmers around the world, and in the unlikely case you don't know, farmers work outdoors, and watching the sky is part of their job because they need to keep track of the signs from the weather in order to take care of their crops. Anyways, before 2000, the sun rose at the position of 4 o'clock and set in the opposite direction at 8 o'clock. However, by 2005, it rose at 3 and set at 9. It doesn't stop there. In 2014, it rose at 1:30 and set at about 10:30. So the position changes are already 2.5 hours. That is a lot. It's much more tilted now. Note that these positions are taken during summer days, so no, there are no seasonal changes involved. Not only farmers, but Arctic tribes like the Inuits and the Eskimos also confirm this. So, watch this.
Kasi naligala siya kangan lalo ng mga akaw nga sikuy ni taka kijane kawin si penyuma si penak apa nga nanubulik mga sa miano ni pekatalak si mga kalawangat nuna yawatan na kasi naligala siya manak silugo mga nauyamit siya ng mga tak kasi mo na sa kanya.
Sa kanya tayo ako si Titidoan ito. Sukay ma, nung nakikidlok pa naman sa kanya paunak pa din ng ano, aking nga nagsarang mga. Ako si Barkas to. Marito ko ang yung pinito. Maraming natin sa kanya ako na. Maraming yan. Ako ko aking yung mga tagal. Isang magpunod ko na wala ko nila kagawa. Kaya manawin mo siya. Ang wala ko silang nila. Wala ko silang na magkuha ko yan ang nakanoy diwan sa Marikit. Hindi nakanoy diwan. Ano nakanoy diwan siya.
See, it's all real, and it's increasing. Also, on the day of summer solstice, which is the 21st of June every year, the sun's position at high noon has also changed over recent years. In 2005, it was in central Mexico. Then it moved north and reached central United States in 2014, and then the US-Canada border in 2015. That's a whole 2,000 miles in only 1 year. In 2016, it moved back down south a bit and was around 41 degrees north latitude. All of this was caused by the wobble, and as far as I know, there could only be one reason. A big gravitational force is affecting us. The known planets are still normal, so that means something unknown to us must be approaching. If you still don't believe it, you can go and watch the tide. Tide is one of the terrestrial phenomena that shows the most obvious effects from gravity. Extreme tidal movements that we call king tides and spring tides are behaving abnormally, and such abnormality has been increasing steadily over recent time. Since tides are caused by gravity of the Sun and the Moon, and the Sun and the Moon's gravity cannot increase, the rise in big tides can only mean that there is an additional source of gravity influencing the Earth. You can see the effect clearly from the historical retreating of the waters along the coast of South America, on the side of the Atlantic Ocean in Brazil and Uruguay, and simultaneous the crashing of waters into the shores along the Pacific coast of Chile and other western edges of the continent. Here's where things get more serious. Just 1 month later, which means September of 2017, similar sea receding took place in North America. The following clips you are about to see was taken in Alabama and Florida, respectively. The authorities, however, attributed this water retreating to the doings of Hurricane Irma. But note that these recedings took place on September 12th, when Irma was already weakening. Speaking of Irma, for those who are not really clear, it was absolutely catastrophic. It was in fact the second most powerful hurricane ever reported, and the second most expensive storm in the region. 69 people were reported killed in the storm. The historical cold wave caused almost 100 casualties. Then after only 2 months more, the whole continent experienced a record-long drought, and it was roasted under a heat wave that brings the continent's temperature up to highs as 100 to 120 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 40 to 50 Extreme weather anomalies like Irma are experiencing an uptick in all possible shapes and sizes. If you remember, just 5 months ago, Europe fell into a deep freeze called the Beast from the East. The historical cold wave caused almost 100 casualties. Then, after only 2 months, the whole continent experienced a record-long drought. And now it is roasted under a heat wave that brings the continent's temperature up to highs of 100 and 120 degrees Fahrenheit, or around 40 to 50 degrees Celsius. Wildfires raged across Europe, from the Arctic Circle to Sweden and Athens, burning thousands of hectares of land, and in Greece, wildfire killed 200 people. The same thing is going on in California, as fire raged on and smoke even reached as far as Baltimore and Washington. The fire has burned a total area of almost 1 million acres, causing more than $600 million and killing 14 people. Wildfires and cold waves can be known easily because they can be attributed to many reasons. Yet, strange phenomena worth knowing like water receding are never reported by official news outlets. You probably know why. I mean, which politician would like the rest of the world to know about the immediate doom? You would definitely break their agenda to pieces and cause an economic and social collapse. In fact, this inbound planet has been known officially by the authorities since 1986. 1 week after its announcement, President Reagan made it part of the national security mandate, thus making it illegal for agencies, scientists, and institutions to address the system of Nibiru when in public. That is why, when it comes to sensitive topics such as this one, it is very important that you keep a lookout on your physical surroundings and connect the dots. Of course, you can deny this in spite of all the harbingers right in front of your eyes. The most common counter-argument that I face when tackling this issue in public is that there is no date for the event. You see, there have been many dates associated with the Nibiru cataclysm. The first one said to be in 2003, but you guys should remember the Nancy leader, the one who proposed the 2003 date, already denied it, and said she would not reveal the date because of public security reasons. So my guess here is that the government reached out to her, and she had no other choice but to follow the set out political roadmap. When the date was postponed to the doomsday of 2012. But guys, please, that was only the end of the Mayan calendar, and it was never supposed to be associated with Planet X. It was only linked to the internet because of internet trolls, as well as people who did not keep themselves informed on the issue and panicked. After 2012, the dates of Nibiru kept being brought up and postponed like an endless loop of time, and the argument gradually lost its validity. But I just want to make you aware of all the signs that are being given to us, both from the sky and from the ground. And you should not let the internet trolls and the uninformed people make you ignore the real signs out there. Unless you can somehow magically explain the increase in the Earth's wobble, the strange tides, and the sudden rise in extreme seismic and volcanic activities going all over the place, then I suggest you just sit back and reflect on it a bit. All of these things are connected together via the cause of the rise in gravity pushed upon us. You see, it's not a question of whether this will happen, but when it happens. We simply cannot calculate a date because there's just not enough information given to us. The elites will do whatever they can to keep us uninformed. If you remember, I once talked about how the lower of the earthquake scale and the spray mist into the sky to block out any visible signs of Planet X. This is repetition, but again. I want to emphasize that you should trust your physical surroundings and common sense instead of believing in the authorities.
Another strange water phenomenon earlier this year is the anomalous tidal patterns in South America. There was a historical retreating of waters along the coast of South America on the side of the Atlantic Ocean, in Brazil and Uruguay, and simultaneously the crossing of waters into the source along the Pacific coast of Chile and other western edges of the continent. Now moving a little bit back into the past, and we arrive at the record low water level of the Mississippi River in October 2017. Now a lot of you might have not heard of this event because it did not receive a lot of media coverage, but we understand, because that is exactly what media do, driving our attention away from the harbingers of Judgment Day. But anyway, last October, in the areas of New Madrid seismic zone, the river became extremely swollen, with many regions becoming dry. In fact, a whole 130 miles stretch of the Mississippi, from Tennessee to the northwest of the state of Mississippi, was so low that barges was not able to ship cargoes to the region. The water level was as low as 7 feet, and that broke the records of swallow rate in the Mississippi in the recorded history. So just for your information, the lowest ever recorded before that was 10.73 feet, and that was all the way back to July of 1988. Here is where it got stranger. A few days before the water got this low, there had been 3 earthquakes within a short 10 hours. So the question here is, could these seismic activities be the cause for the water disappearing? Because there are hypotheses saying that waters are seeping through the cracks or are pushed somewhere else as the result of these earthquakes. That there are also another possible explanation, which is a severe drought in the Central Valley. Whatever the explanation, the simultaneous drought and earthquakes and retrievals of waters indicate that something out there is going through dramatic changes. You also need to know that just a few months before this record low, the Mississippi went through what could have been considered a historical flash flooding, which affected 6 states: Missouri, Arkansas, Indiana, Oklahoma, Illinois, and Louisiana. Now I'll show you this brief news outlet which reported the flood last April and May, so you can see how extreme the phenomenon was, and remember that it went through this extreme high almost immediately before the extreme low. The point is that the earth is going through an upheaval. But anyway, I'm going to be quiet for a few minutes, and here's the news footage.
April 25th, and notice all the greenery. I want you to focus in these black areas. This is the Mississippi River. So those are bodies of water where you see the black on the map.
That's right. Now let's advance to what it looks like now, and you're going to see that area just expand. Look at all that. Down here, Pocahontas, where we had the levee breach, Poplar Bluff. Look at all that blue. That all just fills in. Check out this on Highway 21. This is what it looks like normally. And let's go ahead and advance and show you. Look at that. So all that water spilling in right in between.
When you watch the flooding, it's all the water pouring in between the two there.
And so we took you back more than 7 days now, because this is the 3rd round of rain that we're dealing with. And over the last 2 weeks,
more rain is in the forecast. We've been looking at it all week long. Now, some of these places in the flood zones, we're starting to see levee breaches, numerous ones we had yesterday. They're looking at 10+ inches of rain over the past 7 days. Over 100 river gauges have flooded along the Mississippi, Missouri, and Arkansas rivers.
This is the area that will continue to have problems with flooding. And I do want to make a note. The major rivers such as the Missouri and the Mississippi, we're going to continue to have flooding along those rivers for a week.
Now let's go back to the earthquakes. If you guys have been following us recently, you guys would have known that scientists are saying that the areas of the American West Coast is overdue for mega earthquakes of magnitude 9 or greater. The reason is because the oceanic plate is slipping under the North American plate and is being pressed like a spring, and whether it gets sawdust or spring-like, it will create an earthquake and tsunami so big that many parts of America will be hit within only 15 minutes, not to mention the nearby supervolcano Yellowstone, which would immediately kill almost 90,000 people if it erupts. Now what do I mean by the areas is overdue? Chris Goldinger, earthquake geologist at the Oregon State University, and his colleagues have been collecting core samples of sediments in the ocean for 25 years. They calculated that a mega earthquake will happen periodically, and the average interval is 240 years. The last major Cascadian earthquake was already 350 years ago, and according to the scientists, in all of human's modern history, the Earth has not experienced anything like this magnitude 9 earthquake. America is not the only place where seismic activities are acting up. In fact, the whole planet is being shook. If you visit the website earthquakecheck.com, you'll be surprised to discover that a staggering number of almost 21,500 earthquakes have hit the Earth in the past 30 days. That's more than 700 a day. If you compare this number to that of the period of May 2016, which was 3,000, the number has increased by a shocking 7 times. In July, when Kilauea of Hawaii was erupting, a record 800 earthquakes per day was recorded on Hawaii's Big Island. Now the largest earthquakes in the last years were the one in Chiapas, Mexico. If you still remember, this earthquake hit Mexico on September 8 of 1917. It was magnitude 8.1 at the center and 7.1 in Mexico. Now watch just videos of how horrible it was. Do you see how the building almost collapsed and how the metal flagpole shook? There was 370 casualties in total. A bit further back into the past, and you probably still remember the magnitude 6.7 earthquake that hit Ecuador in April 2016.
Actually much more complicated, and none of us has sufficient data to substantiate the real reason, and so the authorities easily kept us in the dark for the sake of crowd control and group interest. Hi everyone, this is JT at X Science, and today we are talking about climate change. But no, I don't mean the greenhouse gases and coal house. I don't deny that we are causing part of the problem of global warming, but these sudden and extreme changes are caused by something much bigger and more disastrous. I guess many of you in the audience already know what we are talking about. Yeah, Planet X is coming. Although that this is the first time you have heard about Planet X, it's a planet or even a system of planets and a dwarf star. that used to lurk somewhere beyond the known planets, and is on a trajectory towards Earth. Many scientists, even the famous Carlos Mano Parada, have confirmed its existence. Meanwhile, NASA, the United States government, and the likes have been doing their best to cover up its arrival and hide the extreme planet change from the public. They have used many ways, from lowering the earthquake scale to underreported number of big earthquakes, to spraying mist into the atmosphere to hide the system of Nibiru from us. Of course, they have been confronted many times by the public, and every time they denied it and called it an internet hoax. Here's one video of those cases.
I realize you're focusing on near-Earth asteroids today, but there's been so much talk about the potential for finding a Planet X or some sort of large body through the WISE survey. Can you comment on any status on that sort of search, or maybe even reassure people that Planet X isn't coming to get them next year?
Yes, this is Amy Meinzer. I'm happy to answer this one. Planet X is not coming to get us. But we are looking to see if there are any other bodies in the outer part of the solar system with the WISE data. This is a very natural project for WISE. And so we're still working on it right now. We've obviously just returned a huge amount of data from the telescope. It's going to take us a long time to sort through. But the initial results are very promising. You may have seen earlier results where we've discovered a new class of very cool type of stars with WISE. But the search is still on, and we don't think that there's anything that's hazardous in the outer solar system. We think that this is just a sort of if there is something out there, it would be a large body in a roughly circular orbit.
As you can see, they would never admit that a whole system of planets is coming, destroying all that we have ever known about geology and magnetic fields on Earth, and send the whole planet into a series of mass extinction and planetary scale civilization destruction. I mean, how are you going to keep your political agenda and control your crown when they know that the world is ending and you only have planned for you and elites like you? Now back to the extreme event. Everyone probably still recalls the Hurricane Matthews in October 2016. The superstorm sustained a wind speed of 145 miles per hour and wreaked havoc upon the Caribbean. The thing is, as Nibiru approaches and its gravity increases the Earth wobble, things like Hurricane Matthew will be the new normal. A recent extreme disaster that probably everyone knows is a super flood in Japan. But that's not all. A mega heat wave is currently hitting Europe, and places like Belgium has reached 40 degrees Celsius, and that is unprecedented. The internal core of the Earth is also disrupted by the approaching Planet X system, and therefore earthquakes and volcanic activities have been on the rise. We all know Mount Kilauea has been active for 3 months now, and there is still no sign of its calming down. And even worse, there have been cracks in the area around the Yellowstone volcano. Yellowstone is one of the biggest volcanoes on Earth, and its eruption will spell doom for many people and species. In case you don't know, a major volcanic eruption would spill more pollutant into the atmosphere than humans have ever done. Around 250 million years ago, a big volcanic eruption caused a mass extinction. This is death on a global scale we are talking about. And that is not the worst, because when Nibiru comes really close, we will be showered with its meteors, and our Earth's magnetic pole will completely flip. I don't know how much that will affect us, but I know that the effect will definitely be not small. If all these anomalies are still not enough to convince you of an inevitable end of the world, this following footage will. And I'm about to show you guys some of the clips taken in Brazil and published by our fellow channel Skywatch Media. They show the two suns phenomenon, and for your information, the second smaller sun that we see in the skies is the arriving system of Planet X. Now the first clip I will show you was captured in Brazil in April 2016. Then there will be a still images that is taken in September 2016. So here you have it. What you can see from both footages is a second sun in the sky, and as I have said before, the smaller one is a planet or the dwarf star at the center of the system of Nibiru. You can see it radiating a bright red color. That's because its composition is a lot of iron oxide. Did you notice the difference? Well, the images in September clearly shows a second sun much bigger than the one in the videos in April. Here's an image